Hey, welcome to the lesson on inverse relations and functions. What is the inverse of a function and how does it relate to the original function? By the end of the lesson, you should be able to invert functions, graph function inverses, and then compare graphs. Inverting a function is actually quite simple. So given that f of x equals 2x minus 1, if we want to invert f of x, what we need to start with is we're going to change f of x to y so that we're dealing with two variables here, because what we're going to be doing is solving for x and then switching x and y. That is essentially what a inverse is. So it is the function that inverts the variables. So it is actually, let me get a different pen color here. And the graph is the graph that is reflected along the x-axis, or sorry, the line, not the x-axis, the line y equals x. That's my line y equals x. Slope is 1, so it just goes like that. So an inverse would be the graph that is reflected along or over that axis of symmetry. So if I have a parabola, like here, the inverse of that parabola, which I'll do in purple, would be something that looks like this. A little harder to draw sideways, but that is an idea of what the inverse would look like. So that's how it relates graphically. It is the graph reflected on the line, about the line y equals x. Now algebraically, we are simply going to take f of x equals 2x minus 1. I'm going to change f of x to y, so we're dealing with the two variables. And I'm going to start by isolating x. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Y plus 1 equals 2x. I'm going to divide both sides plus 2. So y plus 1 all over 2 equals x. And now here's where the step is. This is what makes it the inverse. I'm going to switch my x and y. So now my new equation is y equals x plus 1 over 2. So I went from x equals y plus 1 over 2, switch the x and the y, and now I have my inverse. And using function notation to notate the inverse, we do f with a little negative 1 here. X, that means the inverse of x. So the inverse function of x. And that's going to equal x plus 1 over 2. And if I looked at that on a table, if I have my x values here, whatever they are, a, b, c, 1, 2, 3, the inverse, I'm just going to switch the x and the y. So now for the inverse, and this is a different example, but it's just showing you what's happening on a number table. Now the inverse, it would be x and y if this was the inverse function. I am just switching the values. Now all my y values are the x values, and all the x values are the y values. So the inverse function is simply the function that graphically is reflected about the line y equals x. And how does it relate to the original function? It's the inverse of the original function, which means that the variables are inverted. So go ahead, start on your homework assignment. If you need any help about this, come to live class or meet me. Reach out to me. Meet me in Math Cafe Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 11. Or if that doesn't work out for you, there's always a math teacher in there, 9 to 3 every day, to help you out. And make sure you watch the next lesson video on graphing radical functions.